Bitcoin right now is down. It's trading at roughly, what have we got here? $36,977 a coin. But Zack Guzman is live in Miami at Bitcoin 2021, and he's got a guest who was in early with Bitcoin when it was what you could call cheap. Zack?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Fair to say, early with Bitcoin here with legendary VC and founder of Draper Associates, Tim Draper. Thanks for taking the time.
Terrific. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
here.
good to see you again.
Great to see you again.
And you just came off the panel. You know, it's been a busy day here at the conference, but a lot of talk right now about where we're at in the adoption cycle here. We don't like talking about price targets so much, but yours is up there. So I like to open with that. 250.
Mine's starting to get conservative. 250K by the end of 22, or the beginning of 2023, and my thinking is that at that point people are going to realize that there is a better currency. They'll start being able to spend it maybe with open node at retail. They'll be able to buy groceries with it, and at that point it's going to soar, because why would you ever hold on to a currency that is fiat when you can hold one that's crypto that does everything else that the fiat does?
Yeah, that's always one of the interesting things, because it seems like you've had that price target for a while. You've been looking for 250,000, and it sounded like you were surprised that other things hadn't come along to knock Bitcoin off its track, and that's kind of, I guess, one of the staying powers and one of the beliefs is
I've always known that it was going to be very volatile relative to the dollar. Yep. In some ways, you could argue that the dollar is very volatile against Bitcoin as it slowly works its way out of our lives and out of the system. But for now, it seems very volatile. But every big change in the world, every transformation goes through fits and starts, and we expect plenty more to come, although I think the amplitude of the vicissitudes is going to be smaller over time.
Yeah, less volatile, and we're already kind of seeing that as we're sitting here in this range-bound $30,000 range. But let's talk about sustainability, because that's one of those things that we've heard issues among institutional investors. Kevin O'Leary was talking about it potentially being a problem, and then we saw Elon Musk come out. As a VC, I mean, what do you look at that as maybe an issue that could be overblown? What are your thoughts on whether or not it is?
So I think institutional investors, they've been operating in dollars for a very long time. And they're thinking, oh, this has always been our safe haven. Everything's been safe. Well, now they're seeing big rampant inflation coming. They're seeing people with a little less confidence in the dollar. They're seeing threats from digital yuan or whatever. Mm-hmm. What they're starting to realize is, as fiduciaries, they really need to get some Bitcoin so that they have some sort of a hedge against the inflation that's coming.
Yeah.
And many fiduciaries are starting to recognize that, but some will come in and go out, and they'll get political pressures or whatever pressures to leave the system or come back into the system. But longer term, we all know that it's just better currency. And eventually the customer is going to recognize that it's just better currency to operate with a currency that is completely free and open and completely trusted.
So it sounds like you are also kind of in the other camp, right? We've heard from Kevin O'Leary be talking about, that he wants to be certain his coins aren't blood coins, as he calls them, ones from China. A lot of yours came from the Silk Road. Ross Ulbricht, when you won that auction over Bitcoin.
Yeah, free Ross. Let's get him out of jail. I mean, the guy's an amazing entrepreneur. We need more entrepreneurs.
That's the way you look at it.
We need the world to have people who are out there willing to take risks and try things. And when you start, putting too many regulations on people, put them in too small a box, once the government controls everybody, you don't have that freedom, and you end up more like North Korea than South Korea. You end up with the government control and abject poverty and a miserable lifestyle instead of free and open and transparent.
Well, that's interesting
world.
Because it's like, obviously there are problems with Silk Road in terms of what they were selling, maybe not necessarily the transactional currency they chose, Bitcoin, but when it comes to that.
He was a platform.
When it comes to that, I mean, are there issues around, it sounds like you wouldn't care where your Bitcoin came from, obviously, if you got it from the Silk Road. Some people would look at that as dirty Bitcoin, but to you, there's
I bought
no
the Bitcoin from the U.S. Marshal's office. What are you talking about?
Well, that's the
thing. Where do you get your... Aren't you in the media? Where do you get your facts?
No,
I bought that from the U.S. Marshal's office.
No, for sure. I'm saying that that's the right way to go, and I'm saying that there's probably no distinction between dirty Bitcoin or clean Bitcoin or whatever, right?
Wait, I don't know what you're talking about. Bitcoin is Bitcoin, and it is an extraordinary new currency.
Yeah.
And I don't know where you come up with this weird thought of a dirty.
No, it's not my thought. Kevin O'Leary's thought was talking about it matters now when institutional investors are getting into this space. They care where the Bitcoin comes from, whether it's a Chinese miner or US miner.
Mine has just gone from one place to me.
Yeah, and
so they know exactly where my Bitcoin has come from.
Yeah.
So mine is probably, I'm never going to sell it because why would I? What would I sell it into?
Well, listen,
why would I
sell
the currency of the future into the currency of the past?
You and I are in the same boat here.
Taking euros and buying drachma with it.
Well, you guys are the same. You and I are in the same boat. I mean, I'm on the same page where it seems like there is a little bit of an overblown take in terms. But
I think Kevin's right. People are going to say, "Wait, this is a better asset class than fiat cash."
Well, it's the same thing like if you're saying, oh, I want to be in cash, no one asks you where your cash came from, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, but now, I mean, really, the criminal element has all gone to cash. They don't want to use Bitcoin because there's a perfect record of everything that happens on the blockchain.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's what's kind of beautiful about the blockchain. You can see actually where your currency
that's why I think,
from. And that's good because you can have NFTs, you can have a lot of these technologies that allow for people to have a complete thread to where things came from. That'll matter when you're buying your organic salad or whatever.
Yeah, and you want to be more sustainable.
Yeah,
when it comes to that,
you'll have this path, and that path will come from the Bitcoin blockchain. Very exciting.
To wrap up, I mean, when you think about that, it sounds like we're in agreement that there might be some overblown risks when people look at risks to the adoption cycle. Are there other ones that stand out to you as maybe one that could knock it off of hitting that $250 or $250,000 price target that you see?
You mean other cryptocurrencies?
Potentially that.
There are always new technologies that come along. But I do feel like we've standardized on Bitcoin. There's a lot of trading and whatever in other currencies, cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
But I think you see from this incredible conference that Bitcoin is really the standard, and that is where most of us are going to go, but it's always great to have competition.
Yeah.
It's always great to have entrepreneurs doing interesting things with the new technologies that are out there.
Yep.
And if they're wild and interesting enough, then we'll back them at Draper Associates.
Is there one other than Bitcoin? I know you're in a Bitcoin tie. I know we're at a Bitcoin conference. I know it's maybe uncouth to ask about other projects that you're really into right now.
Well, I love the ones that are that have really brilliant teams behind them and are taking a new approach at something. So like Aragon is this really interesting token that's built. They're starting with juries, and they're reforming what the nature of a jury is. And that could actually lead us to a liquid democracy, which takes humanity to another level.
Yep.
I mean, all of a sudden, we've gone from being tribal to being global, and we've got a new governing system that's much more different.
What about Ethereum too? That's another one where some people might say it will always be. I don't want to keep quoting Kevin O'Leary here, but it's one that pointed to at the conference that says Ethereum will always be silver to Bitcoin's gold. You're wearing a Bitcoin tie, but you also appreciate new technology.
I look at Bitcoin as the Amazon, and I look at all the other currencies as the other e-commerce companies.
So your advice maybe to investors would be take a chance, but not necessarily as big a chance on those. If you're building a portfolio, people are looking at it as a...
People do. They have a nice portfolio of different tokens. A lot of them are just copies of Bitcoin, and I don't think that's worth it.
Yeah.
Unless they've got something else.
Not a big Dogecoin guy, then, I suppose. You're not wearing a Dogecoin tie for a reason.
No, although it's kind of interesting. Dogecoin has sort of taken the imaginations of people a little, but as I talk to my Uber drivers and stuff, they say things like, oh yeah, Dogecoin because it's cheaper than Bitcoin, but they're not realizing that they can buy
fractional piece of Satoshis,
of some Satoshis rather than buying this Dogecoin that has no support. I mean, no engineering support to it.
Yep.
So
It's one of the biggest misconceptions I think out there is that you can buy pieces.
I think you want to go with the ones that have good engineering support.
Yeah, that's an important takeaway here. And it's important coming from you too, legendary VC here, Tim Draper, founder of Draper Associates. Appreciate you stopping by here.
Great, my
and
pleasure.
Talking with me. This
it's
is
a
really
great
fun.
conference. People,
gotta come out here.
We're in the free country of Miami here.
That's right. And we got to put our fanny packs back on too. But Tim, appreciate it. Always love chatting. Guys, we'll send it back to you in the studio.